What's up, guys? Ian here, coach of your Ladner Lanturn, bringing you guys our Week 10 Team Builder, taking on Torn in the Odisha Oddishes. Week 9 did not happen because Gareth ended up having to drop out, so I received an FF win over Gareth in Week 9. So we are now 5-4 plus 12, which is really good. We're in a really good spot to make playoffs. I can escape relegation territory with a win in any of my last 3 weeks. So basically, I will stay in Substriker guaranteed if I get a win in any of my last 3 weeks. Although, I'm unsure if I'm going. I'm trying to like cut back, and I feel like maybe if I took a step back, we could get more coaches in Substriker that maybe deserve it. So we'll see how this goes. But I did say that at the end of last season or 2 seasons ago that I was going to retire, and then I didn't. So, um, yeah, we'll see how it goes. But yeah, let's talk about Torn's team first. That's maybe sort of an end of season thing to talk about. But Torn's team consists of Tornadus Therian, Rillaboom, Nidoking, Registeel, Hitmontop, Scyther, Mega Slowbro, Blacephalon, Guzzlord, Xurkitree, and Florges. I made one final roster change before the transaction deadline. I asked Austin to pick up Glaceon for me and trade it to me for Regice, so that the transactions would work. So I do have Glaceon now instead of Regice, which I think is going to help out a lot. It's a mon that I can actually bring. Regice was just a gigantic waste of space, and Glaceon at least is a threat. So you can see on your screen that it is coming this week, and that is because it's a threat. It wasn't necessarily going to come this week, but I just found that it had a better matchup than Darkrai, which we'll get into later. So in terms of what I don't expect from Torn, the two things I don't expect are Scyther, which I just think there's so many better options on his team than Scyther in this matchup. It's not necessarily bad, but I wouldn't say that it's necessarily great either. It does have a relatively tough time breaking through Quillfish, and Empoleon in particular, as well as Gliscor. Like there's a few things that it's got a hard time breaking through. If it does come, it's probably Scarfed, if I had to imagine. The rest of his Scarfers, I mean, you're looking like Blacephalon, right? Which I wouldn't put it past him to bring Scarf Blacephalon in this game, or even Specs. He's brought Specs Blacephalon in the past. I have pretty much negligible counterplay to Specs Blacephalon. I don't really have an option to deal with that. So we'll sort of see where my play takes me from there. I would probably end up having to just sack something every single time, which sucks, but that's how it is. So anyways, Scyther is probably not coming, and I think Xurkitree probably doesn't come either. Xurkitree does have a matchup because I have 3 waters, but I also have 2 grounds, and one of them pretty much entirely walls Xurkitree in Gliscor. So I find it hard to believe that he would want to bring Xurkitree when, again, there are better options. I think Florges / Guzzlord are 100% coming. I think Florges probably more likely, but it depends on how scared he is of my offensive mons that deal with Florges a lot better than they deal with Guzzlord. Actually, I guess it's to the same relativity. But anyways, one of them is coming as a Darkrai check. That's guaranteed. Torn, I think, is coming. Rillaboom is definitely coming. I have no answers to Rillaboom in this game. Nidoking, I have some answers to, but I think it's still coming. Registeel, I'm iffy on. I think it probably would come. Slowbro, I think, is coming for sure. Hitmontop, I'm on the fence about. That could also be a Darkrai check, especially given that it can just out-priority it with like Mach Punch, right? Blacephalon, I think, is also guaranteed coming. So in terms of what I think are guaranteed coming, it is Torn, Rillaboom, Slowbro, Blacephalon, and one of Florges, Guzzlord, and probably Nidoking, right? Like I think those are probably the 6, or I guess Nidoking / Registeel. That's my prediction on what's going to come against me. I think that probably has the best matchup for him. Registeel, I would imagine, is if it's coming, it's going to be a Gardevoir check because it just checks Gardevoir a lot better than everything else on his team. I'm not bringing Gardevoir for reasons. Basically, I just didn't have a space. I just didn't have space for it this week. I needed other things, and I felt like Glaceon was a bigger threat than it against this team, so opting out of the Gardevoir and into the defensive matchup that I have to play against some of these Pokemon. So first up on my side is Gliscor running Toxicorb Poison Heal as per usual. We'll see if I can retain my Toxicorb this time. I probably don't lead this because I figure Torn is probably the lead in almost every scenario. Or Rillaboom, like none of which, I'm just losing my Toxicorb, right? Like they're just knocking it off. So there's not really a point in in leading Gliscor unless I really think Registeel is leading, and I'm not even running Earthquake, so take that as you will. Grassy Terrain is really broken. This gen, Grassy Terrain is really stupid, and Rillaboom is really stupid against my team in particular. Grassy Glide just gives him so much power against my team. It two-shots everything, but first off, Banded, Grassy Glide, two-shots or one-shots absolutely everything on my team. So there's like no reason for him not to just bring like Banded, Grassy Glide, Rillaboom, which is really stupid. So I'll leave it at that. But I'm running a complex EV spread that's not meant to be that complex. I basically just slapped on the recommended EVs and then adjusted them as necessary because I didn't feel like I needed that much attack. The speed was definitely way too high. I didn't need nearly that much speed. So instead I'm creeping Timid Glaceon. So I'm 2 points above Timid Glaceon, which hits 251. So no, Modest Glaceon, not Timid Glaceon. Whoops, Modest Glaceon. My notes are wrong. It's Modest Glaceon because Modest Glaceon hits 229. So I'm 2 points above that. And then I'm very specially defensive. This is, in theory, a Blacephalon check, but it's probably not going to work that way in practice, especially because I'm not running Earthquake. I'm running Facade instead. Now, Facade is actually going to help against pretty much everything else, but it leaves me open to the Blacephalon. So I think I'm actually going to change this back to Earthquake and just rely on the fact that I don't care about Grassy Terrain. Taunt will shut down Florges. This is also a Florges check, so Taunt will shut down the Florges very easily. It should shut down the Registeel from doing any Iron Defense shenanigans, and now I can actually hit the Registeel. Roost for my own recovery, of course, and Rocks because Rocks are actually really good for chipping down these walls this game. I would have brought Spikes, but Quillfish just doesn't pretty much ever have matchups. Like, I don't know. Quillfish is actually okay here because it could have performed the same role as Gliscor, being a special wall against Blacephalon. It doesn't have the recovery though, and it could have taunted Florges and Registeel and set up Spikes as well. But I think that he's probably a little bit more threatened by my hazards than I am of his. He doesn't have very good hazard setting. It's Registeel and Nidoking, and pretty much most of the time Registeel has it. He's been running sub Nidoking a lot more recently, and that's kind of another reason that I would want Taunt to catch Nidoking switching in on me. I don't think it would because I'm a ground type, but there you go. That's the Gliscor. Slowking, also specially defensive. This is my Nidoking check and my Torn check. So I've got Gliscor checking Xurkitree, Blacephalon, and then this checks the other two special attackers and Mega Slowbro. So the other three special attackers, unless you count Guzzlord, which Gliscor should be able to handle that too. Scald, Teleport, Toxic, and Dragon Tail. Toxic just really wears stuff down. Specifically, the Mega Slowbro would be really nice to get on that. I think Aromatherapy Florges is going to come if the Florges is coming. Torn, I'd like to get a Toxic on that, but this is my Torn switch in, especially for Nasty Plot Torn, which I really didn't have great answers to. This should tank it relatively well. Teleport to get my momentum, and then Dragon Tail to phase Calm Mind Mega Slowbro, which could be really obnoxious for my team. Like my physical attackers, kind of just get bopped by it, but it depends how scared he is of Darkrai. So I do think that Florges is going to be key, but I'm interested to see how terrified he is of Darkrai in prep, because I thought Darkrai had an okay matchup, and then I looked at Florges and I'm like, meh, I probably don't want to deal with this. Like, even if I plot up Sludge Bomb's not two-shotting, or it won't OHKO, so I need a lot of chip on this before I can actually get a plot up, and if it's just Kebia, then there's really no point because it's just a lure for Darkrai and it'll kill me with Moonblast every time. So that, I don't know. We'll see about Darkrai. If there's a rematch, we'd have to see about Darkrai in that sort of scenario too. But that's the whole idea with Slowking, is that I'm just especially bulky. I can phase things with Dragon Tail, and I've got an option to attack with Scald, potentially burning like a Rillaboom, which would actually be huge, because I'd imagine Rillaboom's going to switch in, and then I can pour it out for momentum, toxic things as well. So yeah, Scald also threatens the Nidoking. Alternatively, I could run Ice Beam, which actually I don't hate, because it's going to hit all of those things anyways, and it's a lower chance of burning them. The only thing I would really want to burn is Rillaboom, but like catching with an Ice Beam could be really helpful. So I do kind of want to go Ice Beam. I do kind of want to go Ice Beam over Scald because it hits all of those things better. You know what? I think I'm gonna leave it. I think I'm gonna leave it because I think any chip is good chip. And so if I can't toxic something, whatever, I've burnt it, right? Vikavolt is my physically defensive answer to Rillaboom, which is, again, like I said, the biggest problem in this game. This will also tank Hitmontop fairly easily. I'm not entirely confident that Hitmontop would even be running rock coverage. I mean, this is the only thing that's going to hit with it, and I think there are just better mons to switch in, i.e. Florges or Nidoking, which can also switch in on Vikavolt relatively easily. But I'm running Roost, Volt Switch, Mudshot, and Bug Buzz. So I'm hitting the Rillaboom with that. I'm hitting the Torn with Volt Switch, and then Mudshot is there for the Nidoking if it does want to switch in on me. Or just lowering speed in general. Mudshot's pretty solid at dealing with at slowing down the Rillaboom and maybe letting me get a Bug Buzz off or something before I die. But yeah, that's the idea with Vikavolt. I don't know if I'll need the boots, but I figure Registeel gets a pretty free Rock Sands to me, unless I've got Gliscor in. So I'm not running any removal, so that kind of want boots. So I'm boots with Cinderace too. Boots are really broken. This item is just so broken. Cinderace is running 4 attacks. Electro Ball to hit the Slowbro, which should do a reasonable chunk. I am way faster than it, so it should do a reasonably hefty chunk. I haven't calced it, but we'll see when we get in game. Pyro Ball damages, demolishes a lot of the rest of this team. It's definitely my best way to kill the Registeel for sure. U-turn just for momentum, and then Sucker Punch is there for Scarf Blacephalon, and it'll also let me go before Grassy Glide Rillaboom. So those are the only reasons I have Sucker Punch. Scarf Circuitry too, same sort of thing. I had Taunt on there before, but Sucker Punch just does that job and better. If I really need a Revenger for Blacephalon, then I can always Sucker Punch, and if he has to switch out, then that means that I'm pretty much killing something almost every single time, unless he goes Torn. And Torn is like worst case. So I'm actually running Naughty for more damage on Electro Ball. Naughty makes me weaker against Torn, of course, but it lets me take Grassy Glide better. Excuse me, unless I wanted reduced Electro Ball damage, which I could probably get away with, given I have a Vikavolt and a Glaceon for the Mega Slowbro, but I can't crit the Mega Slowbro, so we'll sort of see how that goes. I'm speed creeping anything creeping Gardevoir, so like Blacephalon creeping Gardevoir, or like, yeah, because Torrent's going to creep Cinderace. So Blacephalon creeping Gardevoir, I'm creeping that, so I should be outspeeding that, and that's the same speed that my Glaceon is also hitting with the Scarf. Baton Pass for momentum. Oh my god, I'm not yawning right now, but I'm really, really thirsty. Let me just take a drink of water. Okay, I definitely needed that. Ice Beam and Freeze Dry is just fantastic against this team. Only thing is I'm not hitting a Registeel, and actually just Registeel. So, well, Blacephalon, but Blacephalon's not really an Ice Resist. So basically I just Baton Pass on the first couple times when he goes Registeel, get in Cinderace, and I get to do whatever the hell I want with Cinderace, which is great. I probably U-turn because then, or I don't know what I would do actually. Maybe Electro Ball or something. Trying to catch Slowbro coming in, and it deals with Registeel clicking Protect. And then Toxic is there as a last-ditch sort of thing, because Florges can switch into this, so that's all I got going on there. A modest max special attack with a Scarf, so I'm actually outspeeding... Yeah, sorry, Blacephalon creeping Gardevoir. Hopefully I don't just straight up die to a Hurricane from... Excuse me, from Torn. I'm hoping that I don't take enough Rock Chip to put me in that range, because I have nothing that actually outspeeds the Torn. Yeah, it's a little bit complicated, but I have nothing that outspeeds the Torn, so hopefully being able to deal with that. My physical defense stats should mean that I tank at least one Grassy Glide from the Rillaboom and Grassy Terrain, hopefully, and then I can Ice Beam it and kill it, or Freeze Dry. Both of them will kill. Max Special Attack, Modest Glaceon's really powerful. Anything that's weak to Ice just basically drops the Glaceon. This is a really strong special attack. It's the same special attack stat as Kyurem, so you know, I'm getting a lot of value out of this. And then Lucario last. I'm running Life Orb Lucario with Dual Stab, E-Speed, and Swords Dance. If I can get the Swords Dance up, I don't know what I can get it up on. Maybe like Guzzlord locked in Dark Pulse or something, right? Or Rillaboom clicking Grassy Glide. Maybe I can get this up on, but it probably clicks high horsepower, knowing that it can't kill me. There's a lot of factors, but I'm not entirely sure what I can SD on. It's probably going to be Registeel in Terrain, and then I just like E-Speed and click buttons from there. That's kind of my plan. I have nothing for Slowbro on this, so I need Slowbro dead before I can get that in. Ideally, I would keep Registeel alive as fodder, as setup fodder for this Lucario in that case. Orb is actually probably not the best choice in the world. If I'm being honest, it's probably not the best choice in the world. I also can't touch Blacephalon, keeping that in mind as well. But this is a pretty decent breaker. If I just kind of like want to lead with it against Florges, you know, it breaks Florges Registeel, which I think is important. And then I have E-Speed in the back for things that are faster than me, like Scyther, not Blacephalon, but Scyther, and Torn, and Rillaboom. Of course, it'll out-prioritize Grassy Glide. And then everything else I can kind of just click buttons against. So I'm actually outspeeding the base 85. I'm not aggressively creeping with this, so I'm outspeeding Rillaboom, max speed Rillaboom and max speed Nidoking, because Quillfish is base 85, so they might be running max speed for like an offensive Quillfish. I don't see why I would ever bring offensive Quillfish in this matchup, but it's technically possible. In terms of what's not coming, Darkrai, which was initially on the team, and I swapped out for Glaceon, Empoleon, which doesn't really do a whole lot and loses to all of his offensive bonds except for Torn. But Torn has to hit Focus Blast, so it's really easy for him to just like knock into Focus Blast, and then any sort of like Chople defensive investment I could have on Empoleon is just useless against that. So, yep, Golurk is not bad either. It also breaks through Slowbro plus Registeel, and it can semi-wall Xurkitree with a Rindo, but I basically do nothing to the rest of the team. Yeah, Golurk's a little bit sus in this matchup, I'm not going to lie. Gardevoir is something that I think is actually really good in this matchup, and I think it's one of the main reasons that Registeel has to come to this game. There's just nothing else that can tank Gardevoir well enough on this team besides the Registeel. And if I were to bring Calm Mind Gardevoir, then things just get a little bit out of hand. Yeah, Quillfish, like I said, I also could have brought Quillfish. So sort of an up-in-the-air matchup. Ideally, I win all 3 of my last games, but I'm not super confident in any of them. I definitely need to win at least one of them to make playoffs, and I kind of just have to hope that other people below me lose at that point. So I'm hoping that I can pull off at least one of my next 3 wins. Like I said, hopefully this one is going to be one of them. And, we're in the mix at the bottom of the playoff bracket. So, I'd like to at least make quarterfinals again, since we kind of bombed out in quarterfinals last season. And I'd like to get back to semis. But that is going to be for me. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. For the battle. I'm actually recording this the day before, because we battle stupid early in the morning because Torn's time zone is ridiculous compared to mine. It's like 12 and a half hours, so battling him his night, my morning, which is stupid. I hate this time difference, but this is recorded a day early so that I'm not just yawning my way through this one.